What is going on, everybody? We are back. Goat Talk is back this week, Thursday night, 8 o'clock. My name is Sean Gerhardt, alongside my co-host here, Mike Vizino, rocking the glasses and the goat shirt, and Billy O'Neill with me tonight. We got a really fun topics for tonight. We're changing it up a little bit this week, not doing our usual topics. But first off, we got Thursday night football tonight, Packers versus the Niners, the banged-up Niners. Guys, who do you think is going to win tonight?
Well, first of all, I'm kind of upset that I'm just Billy O'Neill. I'm not special guest Billy O'Neill this week, but we'll roll with it. However you run this little operation here, I'll just take note of that for next semester.
I'm sorry, Billy.
It's all good. I accept your apology. The Packers are going to win this week. I don't see the Packers coming off a short week after losing to the Vikings pretty embarrassingly and not being able to pull out a win against the Niners. They're coming off of a pretty bad week. I don't see the Packers losing two in a row like that, and the Niners are a really banged up football team right now. So it's looking pretty bad for the 49ers. Also, Aaron Rodgers is going to come out and play really mad the same way he did week one when they didn't have Jordan Love because he's coming off of something else we're going to talk about this week because he didn't get a wide receiver again.
We'll get to that later, I promise. You saw the thumbnail. We will get to that. Faz, who do you got tonight?
I gotta go with the Packers. I think that's the easy choice tonight. Niners are probably one of the most banged up teams in the entire NFL right now. Again, we're gonna get to it later. Don't think the Packers made moves that put them over the top, but I think this is a pretty easy game for them, especially with the way they've been playing this season.
I agree. I think this is Packers all the way. I think Packers defense is one of the safer starts this week in fantasy. I don't know if the game started yet, but I've plugged them into one of my lineups because they were available. So I know they haven't been a high-scoring defense in fantasy, but the Niners have Mullins. They're starting with Jeff Hasty at running back. Like no George Kittle, no Brandon Ayuk. So they're really banged up. And Green Bay's defense is going to be a good play tonight if you're able to pick them up in time. Now, let's get into our first segment here, and let's talk about that trade deadline. And there was a lot of names go around, and just to list a couple here. Williamson from the Jets got traded to the Steelers. Bless him, I'm sure. As you can see the pictures roll out, you're going to see he's very happy. Got a nice picture of him smiling. Ngakoue got traded to the Ravens from the Jaguars after recently signing with the Jaguars. Then you had Isaiah Ford going to New England, which was a little under the radar. Not that many big splashes in free agency. You also had, or not free agency, the trade deadline. You also had Carlos Dunlap going to Seattle, who desperately needed that pass rushing help, which he'll help a little bit with that. I feel like it was the best they could do. They're obviously not going to go out there and get a Khalil Mack, but again, those are probably the highlights. There was a couple other low-end moves I don't know if you guys want to mention, but I think the bigger story here is the moves that weren't made, and I'll let you guys start this talk.
So I think just to start off first, really quickly, talk about the two moves that were made. I think the two biggest moves of the trade deadline were Carlos Dunlap and Avery Williamson. Dunlap obviously going to the Seahawks, Williamson going to the Steelers. I mean, the one thing Steelers really needed was a really good linebacker. I'm a Jets fan. We all know this. I watched Avery Williamson play. He was one of the better parts of our defense. He's a solid linebacker. He's nothing, over the top, but I think he does. He adds good value to Pittsburgh. But to me, the biggest trade that was made was Dunlap going to Seattle. The one thing that Seattle has needed all season long is a pass rusher. Now, Dunlap isn't what he used to be. He only has, I think, one sack on the whole season. So he's not what he used to be. But he's a big name, and he's a presence that team doesn't have in the front seven. In the defensive line. So I think Carlos Dunlap to Seattle was probably the biggest move of the trade deadline in terms of where the biggest impact is going to be felt. In terms of moves that didn't happen, I thought Will Fuller was going to the Packers. I'm going to save this for Billy because I know he's the Packers fan here. But I'm surprised that they didn't go out and get a wide receiver. I thought that they, once I saw Will Fuller was linked to them, I thought it was a done deal. I really thought that they would go after someone like A.J. Green. Like, I just really thought that was going to happen. I don't know what it is with Green Bay being afraid of trades. They're just a team that loves to build based on what they draft. They really have never been an active team at the trade deadline. This year was no different. I really thought this would be the year where they would break the streak. And there were all those reports coming in that Will Fuller was about to get traded there. It never really didn't happen. But, I mean, to me, that was the biggest what-if scenario because the Packers desperately need help at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I can't help but agree there. It's almost frustrating watching it happen year after year, whereas your team has an opportunity to make a run, and then they go, let's not have offensive help at all. I think Will Fuller, albeit an inconsistent wide receiver, is someone who definitely could have taken a little bit of attention away from Devontae Adams. And who else do they have at wide receiver? Or
Alan Lazard,
any sort of receiving role?
I mean, they
Alan
have
Lazard,
Tonyan at
Marquez
tight end, who's getting
Valdez.
better, but
Right. But like even then, like they're not Will Fuller. Not that Will Fuller's at this insane caliber, but they're not Will Fuller. If that makes sense. They're not AJ Green. And I think that in the same respect, the moves not being made, the Texans get hurt on that end too. Whereas they didn't really do anything like massive. And they're a team that has a lot of potential with Deshaun Watson being a star caliber quarterback, and they can't win games. And you could attribute a lot of that to Bill O'Brien, who knows. But yeah, I think that really the story of free agency is everything that's not going on, but specifically with the Green Bay Packers, who just continue to choose year in and year out to not ever, ever, ever do anything at the trade deadline. As far as winners, Avery Williamson wins, and that's not even because the Steelers won by getting him. He's a good linebacker from what Faz is saying, but he wins because he just went from being 0-8 to 7-0.
He's not on the
Yeah.
list. It's as simple as that.
Like he went from being in the worst team in the NFL to, I mean, statistically based on wins, the best
Probably
team in
one
the
of the
NFL.
best teams in the NFL right
So
now.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, like you could argue that the Steelers aren't the best team in the NFL, but they're undefeated still, and that makes them the best. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a clear win for him. I think that picking up Carlos Dunlap is a really good move. But other than that, not a big weekend, not a lot going on. But yeah, come on, Green Bay, please. I just want
More from
something
them.
good.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I really thought that they were gonna go after a wideout. I thought that was the one thing they need to put them over the
that's what
top
everyone
in the
thought.
NFC.
That's what everyone's been thinking since the draft. I mean, and they just haven't done it. And Billy, I feel bad for you because Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers is a very talented team, but they refuse to take these actions in draft, and now they refuse to take these actions at the trade deadline. And you're talking about a Houston team that had 3 wide receivers on the trade market. Kenny Stills, Brandon Cooks, and Will Fuller, all available for them. And I
would
think
have taken any
Rodgers
of
right
them.
now is missing that Randall Cobb. If you had that Randall Cobb piece, this team is going to have listen, for as well as the Packers have played this year, and thanks to Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, and Devontae Adams, I mean, him and Adams have been killing it these last couple weeks. But it gets to a point that when you're going to play these teams in the playoffs, like the Tampa Bays, the Pittsburghs, or any of these like other high-end teams, that's where you're going to see the Packers start to struggle because they don't have the playmakers to step up. All they have is those guys I listed. And that sounds like a lot, but if you have the availability to get another guy like Will Fuller, and I've said it on this show before about Will Fuller. Will Fuller is the ideal wide receiver 2. You cannot ask for anything more out of a wide receiver 2. He's not a wide receiver 1, but he is a perfect wide receiver 2. A guy like Brandon Cook, my God, he's been passed around the league more than Fitzpatrick has almost at this point, and so he would get along just fine in Green Bay. I'm sure he's been on the move before. But a guy I really think they missed out on, and I don't even know if they made an offer for, is Jameson Crowder. I think Jameson Crowder should have been traded. He should not have been kept on that Jets team. And I go back to what I said before with Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb was primarily a slot guy in Green Bay, and what do you have with Jameson Crowder? Well, like I said, one of the most underrated receivers in the league and a really good slot receiver. I could have seen that duo working out really nice in that Green Bay offense. But here we are again. Green Bay does not make the move. And I think it's what's going to hold them back from going deep in the playoffs this year.
No, I agree. I mean, like again, I could still see the Packers making a run because they're winning games without it right now, but it's not the playoffs yet. And that's when things start to get busy. And from what we've seen, they couldn't beat the Buccaneers and they couldn't beat the Vikings. The Vikings is a game you should win. If the missing piece is a wide receiver, it can't be. You have no excuse on defense. You've been drafting defense for the past 10 years since Aaron Rodgers has been a starting quarterback. You have no excuse on defense at all, ever. Like, that should never be a problem. But regardless, if you're missing a wide receiver and you have arguably the best quarterback in football, like from a talent perspective, I don't want to get into that argument. But regardless,
Not tonight.
not tonight. But like, you have to give him something to work with, because how do you expect him to win games with his primary options being Devontae Adams and Rob Tonyan. I'm not saying that Aaron Jones isn't doing a great job taking weight off of him when he's playing, but like, does that make sense? Like, how do you
I
expect to
totally
win
agree.
games with Rob Tonyan as your primary, like, tight end option? Like, and that's not a knock on Rob Tonyan. He had a great game a couple of weeks ago, but like, no one knows who that is yet. He either needs to
He's
make a
on my
leap or they
fantasy
need
team.
to.
Is he actually?
Yeah, he is. I've had him for a couple weeks.
Well, you need bigger talent names, and I know Sean mentioned this name before. Jameson Crowder was another. I'm not even going to like get into his role with the Jets or anything like that, but Jameson Crowder was another guy that I thought would be a hot commodity at the trade deadline because he's such a good, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and he's just ultra reliable. Even back when he was on Washington, he was just a super reliable wide receiver. And to me, I thought he would be a guy that Green Bay would go after. Like, not, I don't think Jameson Crowder is a flashy player. He's not the biggest name in the NFL, but I think to me, he looked like a serviceable veteran that I thought Green Bay would go after just as, a reliable playmaker.
He can get the job done. That's like,
I'm a big Crowder fan too.
That's all I'm looking for. Like, just someone who can do the job. And I'm not saying that Alan Lazard can't grow into that and Marcus Valdez-Scantling can't. Because this
is a win now team.
Good, but we got to win now, right? Like,
this is a win now team. Exactly.
How do you expect to not take advantage of the fact that you just drafted you drafted a replacement, so you expect to win with this quarterback now for the next however long he is contracted for?
Right.
I don't care. Like, Will Fuller would have been great, but Jameson Crowder with Aaron Rodgers, that would have been, I think, a really, really, really fun duo to watch because that would have gave
it would have been
low key Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb throwback.
Well, look at what Jameson Crowder has done with. Look at what Jameson Crowder has done with whoever Washington's quarterback was and Sam Darnold. I mean, that's with Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold, and he's produced really well under guys like that. So imagine what he could do under Aaron Rodgers, who has consistently been a top 5 quarterback in the NFL and one of the best of all time.
And the thing with Crowder in his whole career has been he's had very creative coaches to make him better. This year, that was the question of what was going to be with the Jets, and he's actually been producing with a bad coach. So that kind of proves that his coach is carrying him because they had Shanahan in Washington before that, running that West Coast, very effective in that offense. So offense like Matt LaFleur's, again, would flourish with Jameson Crowder. It's just a shame to see Packers not make the move. But moving on, let me ask you guys this for our last little part of the trade deadline here. Besides the Packers, who's the next loser or the biggest winner, team-wise?
I mean, so I don't want to reiterate points that we already talked about. I think the Steelers are probably the biggest winner. They didn't make anything like any huge move, but they did pick up Avery Williamson, who's a talented linebacker, and they add to an already talented roster. Like, that defense in Pittsburgh is already really great. And then when you add a piece like Avery Williamson there, then you just become a much better team. And if you're getting to be a better team at 7-0, then you keep working towards that. And the Steelers are a win now team right now. Like, as soon as you put Big Ben back into that team, they become win now. So long as he stays healthy, they're playoff contenders. They're Super Bowl contenders. And that's something that Pittsburgh has proven over and over again, to go out and get a centerpiece to your defense like that, which has been like the staple of every winning Steelers team in the past however long. Like, they've been winning teams in that being their defense. How do you go wrong with that? You need to establish that. And now you have a 3-headed like dragon of Avery Williamson, Minka Fitzpatrick, and TJ Watt or Joe Hayden, or like, there's a lot more than 3. But like, when I'm talking about like the 3 levels of defense, those guys are going to make substantial differences to winning football games.
I have to agree, and I just want to jump off something Billy said really quickly. Someone named Brian just texted me. Something that Billy said. I think that the Steelers, I mean, they're more than playoff contenders. I think they might be the best team in the AFC. I mean, don't sleep on the Steelers just because Big Ben is, their quarterback. That's not a diss against Big Ben, but I'm saying like everybody's Kansas City because they have Patrick Mahomes. Don't sleep on Pittsburgh. I would not be shocked if that team made the Super Bowl this year. I mean, what Billy just said about their defense holds true. Their defense is phenomenal with the names that they have on that side of the ball. And considering that this is a team that within the past 3 years have lost both Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, the fact that they're undefeated halfway through the season and look like Super Bowl contenders, That says a lot. And I know Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell have both fallen off from what they were, but anytime a team loses a top 3 running back and a top 3 wide receiver, you think that's done. But what they've done is something really impressive, and they have built a Super Bowl contender without breaking up the core nucleus of this team. And by the core nucleus of this team, I'm talking about Ben Roethlisberger and Mike Tomlin. They have kept that duo all the way through, and now the Super Bowl contenders again. And they've done such a great job on both sides of the ball, putting young talent on that team. Minka Fitzpatrick, I know he's a little bit older now, but when they first got him, Joe Hayden, TJ Watt, Juju Smith, Chase Claypool, some of the other young wide receivers they have, even James Conner. This team has done so well at drafting and putting together young talent. And I know they made some trades for like Fitzpatrick and Williamson. They have done a fantastic job on the trade market, and they've done a fantastic job in the draft. And I don't know. I have a Super Bowl prediction for what I think the game is going to be. I'm going to keep that to myself, but I think Pittsburgh might make the Super Bowl this year.
All right. So for me, I know you guys talk about Pittsburgh, but I think the biggest loser here is Houston. Because what I think happened, or my opinion, is that they overvalued their receivers and they got nothing back for it. For a team that does not look like they're going anywhere this year, they got nothing back for those 3 receivers. So I think that's a big loss for the Texans. But moving on, we're going to do some mock fantasy trades. And some of these happened to some of us recently, not me. I'm looking at the top right there. And some of them actually happened in the leagues we're in. So these are totally like legitimate trades. And we're going to go through them one by one starting now. Mike, should we start with yours or should we end with yours? What do you think?
Oh, we could start with mine. I'm okay with that.
Start with yours? Okay, so the trade Mike made yesterday against my counseling decision or my advice is DeAndre Hopkins and David Johnson for Melvin Gordon, Jameson Crowder, and Zeke.
Who's on what side?
He traded away Hopkins.
I traded Hopkins.
Why would you ever trade DeAndre Hopkins for anything?
Okay, so let me explain the situation. So I was
Did you feel
absolutely
bad for the guy?
I'm not gonna lie, absolutely desperate for a running back. I'm gonna tell you the truth.
Okay.
I was open to trading either DK Metcalf or DeAndre Hopkins. The reason I leaned because I wanted a star caliber running back in return, and maybe Zeke wasn't the best choice, but
maybe
my mindset was I would have rather kept Metcalf, thinking that my quarterback was Russell Wilson. So my mindset was, well, if Russell Wilson gets a touchdown to Metcalf, I'm getting extra points on one play. You know what I mean? Right. So to me, Hopkins is by far the better fantasy option. I just valued Metcalf a little bit more with Wilson as my quarterback. That was the trade that inevitably came to be. I thought Jameson Crowder was to me a valid, not a replacement for DeAndre Hopkins, but someone that could a serviceable wide receiver that I think will get a lot of targets that will do well. I mean, to me, he's the only wide receiver on the Jets, really. DeAndre Smith, I think that gives me a good running back too to replace David Johnson. And yes, I gave up DeAndre Hopkins, and it was really tough to do, but I needed a star running back. Did I lose the trade? I think when looking at the players, the other kid won the trade. I lost the trade. But I think it was a move that rounded out my team a lot better because my team was very top heavy with Wilson, Travis Kelce, Metcalf, and Hopkins, and that was it. I had nothing after that. With this trade, I feel like I got a little bit more depth in getting Jameson Crowder and getting DeAndre Smith and obviously getting the running back that I've been seeking all season. Plus, I need to add also, I'm 3-5. I'm like okay in the league.
Right. You got to change something up.
Our whole league kind of wants to beat this one kid. And basically the two best teams are this one kid we all want to beat and the kid I traded with. So I feel like I kind of helped them a little bit. But I also didn't, completely destroy my team.
Right. My problem was the other offers you got and you declined over that one.
Well, so I'll explain this. So after that trade went through, someone texted me saying, I will trade you Aaron Jones and Jarvis Landry for DK Metcalf. Which if I got that before, I would have taken that in a heartbeat. Yeah. And kept DeAndre Hopkins.
Even the other ones you got, without trading Hopkins to that kid, they were better trades than what you ended up doing.
I mean,
it is what it is at this point, but
I think
It is what it is at this point. The bottom line is that I valued Metcalf over Hopkins because Wilson's my quarterback. That was really what it came down to.
That's fair. I mean, I guess for me to poke a little hole in your logic there, in that DeAndre Hopkins will probably score for you consistently. DK Metcalf, if you look at
Yes.
from a numbers perspective, I have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett on my team at the same time. Tyler Lockett is going to poach touchdowns from DK Metcalf at every opportunity he gets for this season. Tyler Lockett is the clear number one receiver. They can never have a good game at the same time, but more often than not, Tyler Lockett's having a good game. Tyler Lockett just turns out to be the better receiver. So if someone was offering you big money for DK Metcalf at any point, and you could get rid of DK Metcalf, I would always take a deal on DK Metcalf because of the fact that people are going to be hyped up on him and offer more from him because of the fact that he's constantly in a media cycle. And that's like reading way too into it for a fantasy football trade.
It's true,
but because
though.
Everyone loves DK Metcalf.
He's a wide receiver too, in all honesty.
He's not a wide receiver one, and I would never. If someone was going to offer you a wide receiver one value trade, like DeAndre Hopkins replacing him, that you take that every day of the week.
Well, the thing is that I wasn't getting the kid is Zeke and Gurley. I wasn't getting either of them for Metcalf.
Right. You should have took Melvin Gordon though, in the other. I don't want to get into this.
I don't think Melvin Gordon's even going to produce for the rest of the season. I think he's kind of done.
My problem, anyone watching out there, I'm just going to finish this trade on this point because we have a lot of them to get through. But Zeke is facing almost every week for the rest of the season a top 15 rush defense. So Zeke's going to be a very big name in trade fantasy as of right now. So I'm just warning you guys out there. Be careful with Zeke. I wouldn't be too high on him. Plus, the Cowboys are a mess right now. So
right,
I honestly might trade Zeke away in the league. I have him.
I mean, I'm going to tell you the truth. If I wasn't 3-5, I probably wouldn't have done it. But
that's fair.
I just felt like my team needed a shake up, to be honest with you.
No, that's fair.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. We got a lot. So for these next ones, let's just do like yes, no, and then 1 point. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
The first one I got is Derrick Henry for Emmanuel Sanders, Devontae Parker, and Antonio Brown.
Say it one more time, just so I was trying to write it down.
Henry for Emmanuel Sanders, Antonio Brown, and Devontae Parker.
I mean, I guess that's really dependent on if you're in need of a wide receiver that desperately.
Well, yeah.
But I'm keeping
because that's 3 wide receivers. But I would.
That's like the opposite of what I did. Like I was desperate for a running back.
Right.
I also don't think Antonio Brown's really gonna do anything. I think he's just gonna
Antonio Brown has to prove
he's just gonna be there.
He's ring chasing, man. Everyone knows it. But like, I think that it really boils down to a straight up no. I don't think you could trade away a guy like Derrick Henry, especially that he's performing earlier on in the season. That's going to lead me to believe that he's going to play well towards the end of the season when they need him more fluidly. Never trade Derrick Henry ever. You're better.
I agree. I would never trade Derrick Henry.
You're better off hitting the waiver wire for a wide receiver. Like chances are you could get a lower quality, like consistent wide receiver.
You can always get a good receiver.
You can always find a good receiver, especially with the injuries racked up at the running back position now. It's harder to find good value running back.
You're being scammed.
All right, next trade. You have this one's kind of big, so make sure you're listening. T.Y. Hilton, Devontae Freeman, Travis Kelce for Amari Cooper and Dalvin Cook.
T.Y. Hilton and Travis Kelce for who? For Amari
Devontae Freeman for Cooper and Cook. See, I'm keeping
that's
Dalvin
tough.
I think Dalvin Cook's a low-key MVP this year. So.
Well, I'm gonna give you 2 perspectives on it. I don't think either side should do that trade. Number one, if you trade Dalvin Cook, you're crazy. I just don't think Dalvin Cook should be traded because I do agree that I think he's might be maybe a dark horse, but he's well deserving of an MVP candidate this year. Same reasons I said with the running back injuries. Number 2, I don't know why you would trade Travis Kelce. I mean, there's like 6 good tight ends in the entire NFL, and Travis Kelce, to me, fantasy-wise at least, is the number 1. He's the best, fantasy tight end. On the other hand, Dalvin Cook is arguably the best fantasy running back, top 2. I wouldn't do it if I was either side. Again, I don't know what the teams look like, but I'm definitely not trading Kelsey because he's by far the number one tight end, and I'm not trading Cook because I think right now Cook is the best running back. I mean, he just had 50 points last week. I'm not saying he's going to duplicate that, but the value for Cook is there. Cook is such a valuable, they're both just way too valuable players to trade, and I don't know because. I don't know if I would want Amari Cooper back in that deal either, especially with what's going on in Dallas. Like, Ben DiNucci's not throwing Amari Cooper the ball 10 times in a game.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'd take that trade for either side, but I think if you could get rid of Amari Cooper at that value and then get another talented receiver back, and he's not a receiver, but another person who's going to give receiver quality in Travis Kelce, maybe. It depends what you need, but no.
I agree. I wouldn't do that one. I would keep Cook. Next trade is Devontae Parker and Mark Ingram for Sterling Shepard and Julian Edelman.
No, you don't take that. I think you keep Devontae Parker and Mark Ingram. You don't want. I would not touch the Giants' offense with a 10-foot pole. Sorry, Sean.
I'd keep Parker and Ingram too.
Yeah.
Agree,
no.
Mike?
Yeah. Yes, I agree. Yes. Yeah. We'll make that one quick. Someone just offered me a trade, actually. Like, while we're on the show.
All right, we'll hit that at the end. Let's hit that at the end.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry and Ronald Jones for Christian McCaffrey and DeAndre Swift.
Derrick Henry and Ronald Jones for Christian McCaffrey.
So this is a trade I did, actually. I'm curious what you guys think.
You did.
Who did you trade?
I traded Henry
traded
and Jones
Derrick
for CMC
Henry.
and Swift.
I think that's a really good trade, actually.
Yeah, if you're in PPR, you always want Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey's going to get you receiving. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey is the best PPR running back.
I would just hope he doesn't re-aggravate that injury, but I think that was a good trade.
I was in 2-5 in that league, so it was worth the risk.
It's worth a shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's a good trade.
Yeah.
You agree with me then. All right, next one is one that happened in one of my leagues. Tyree Hill for Joe Mixon and Justin Herbert. And this was before Herbert went off. I'll say that.
Isn't Joe Mixon hurt? Also, yeah.
Tyreek Hill.
I'm keeping Mixon and Herbert. That's just me, though.
I'd rather keep Mixon.
I always keep the running back.
I would keep them. I guess the way that you said it was from the perspective of trading Tyreek Hill for them, and I would take that. I also, not to humble brag real quick here, but I've had this history of just picking up players right before they go off and having big streaks. So when George Kittle had his breakout year with C.J. Beathard at quarterback, I picked him up because the announcer said that they were both Iowa prospects and they played together.
Yeah, college team.
So I was like, oh, word.
I like CJ
so I picked him up. And then I picked up Justin Herbert because I said that Justin Herbert was a better prospect than Jordan Love, and the Packers should have.
Justin Herbert's he's a superstar right now, but I just
didn't think he was going to be, so I got to give him.
I didn't think so either. But to the trade, I think again, it comes down to the value of the running back right now. Like I would argue that the running back is more valued than the wide receiver in fantasy.
100%. Plus, you also have to account for the fact that despite the fact that Tyreek Hill produces weekly, he's still competing with a lot of other weapons in that offense now, especially with Le'Veon Bell being added. Like, he's fighting for touchdowns now. So I would say if you get Joe Mixon in there in a weaker offense, who's more likely to score, and Justin Herbert, then yeah, take that trade.
All right, moving on. So we got this one's kind of big too. Jameson Crowder, Jerry Jeudy, and Austin Eckler for James Robinson and Terry McLaurin. And this is another trade I did in my other league.
Can you say the first half of that trade again? I'm sorry.
Crowder, Jeudy, and Eckler for James Robinson and Scary Terry.
I think I'm holding on to, if I'm the one that has Crowder and that package, I think I'm holding on to that package.
So I traded Robinson and Terry for those three guys. I made that.
So you made a good trade.
Okay, so you made a good
trade.
Yeah.
Even though
you won that trade
Eckler's
easily.
on the IR right now, it was still worth it.
No, I think that was a good trade, actually.
It was hard to say bye to Terry, but yeah, I got Eckler in return.
No, you made a good trade.
All right, next one is, this one's more interesting now because of what's going on in Kansas City. You have Clyde Edwards-Helaire for DJ Shark and Ronald Jones.
I'd take that trade. I think
I would take that trade too. The only thing that makes me nervous about DJ Shark.
Which side would you guys take?
I would take Ronald Jones for
See,
CEH.
I'd keep CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
See, I love
I don't know.
CEH, but I don't know if he could compete for all those carries. I think eventually he will be the starting running back there, but I wouldn't. If you're win now right now in fantasy, you take Ronald Jones and DJ Chark.
This is a conditional trade for me because I don't know what's going on with Gardner Minshew, but I know Minshew loves
He's
you.
out right now.
Is he coming back anytime soon?
Jake Lutton's starting this week, but his starting job is already on the fence, they said.
All right. Well, I know Minshew loves DJ Chark, so that would, if Minshew was coming back, then I'd probably do that trade. But if not, I don't really see any value in DJ Chark.
All right, so let's do. I'm actually on my own on that one. I'd keep Edwards-Helaire. Let's do. All right, this one's interesting. Noah Fant for Josh Allen. See, this one's tough
like
because
Josh
it depends
Allen.
on what your team looks like.
Yeah,
It does depend on what the team looks like.
I think Faz made a good point of this earlier, in that he said that the tight end depth in fantasy football is very, very low. So if you need a tight end, Noah Fant might be a good option to hop on. But Josh Allen's been producing at such a high level right now. I don't know how you get rid of him unless you have a lot of confidence in your quarterback ability. Maybe you just picked up Justin Herbert and you're kind of trying to dish another guy away.
I'd take Fant, I think, in the end of it.
I think I would too.
I would take Fant because he's going to be a top
Only if
10
Josh Allen's my backup quarterback, though.
No, even if Allen's my starter, I'm still taking Noah Fant.
Really?
Noah Fant is only going to get better this year as long as Drew Lock stays.
Well, you know what though? I don't disagree with that because I think depending on how deep your leagues are, I think on the waiver wire, good quarterback play hasn't been extremely difficult to find.
Yeah, I play waiver wire quarterback and defense in all three of my leagues every week.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's because Sean's insane.
So you don't even draft draft a quarterback.
I didn't
really.
draft a quarterback in my main league till the last round.
It's a dangerous game. That's a good. Well, what's your record in that league?
In our league, the one we're in, me and you, I'm in.
Oh, that's what you did in our league.
I'm like 6-2 or something. No, I'm second place right now.
And that drafting quarterback in the last round.
So yeah, like I'll pull out in our league.
Yeah,
I am.
Sean drafts a kicker in the third round.
I'm starting Kirk right now in our league for the week, and then Billy and me and yours. I don't know if you know my team in our league, but I've made some moves to the point where let me tell you my team real quick in this league. I have Josh Allen as my quarterback. I have Zeke, Keenan Allen, Chase Edmonds, David Johnson, Austin Eckler, Miles Sanders. Do I need to say more? Like, listen to my running backs. Zeke, Edmonds, Johnson, Sanders, Fournette. And then I have Keenan Allen.
Oh, dude, you're stacked.
What?
Yeah, that's in our league, Billy. But
Sean's the worst.
Anyways, I made a lot of deals in that league. But anyways, moving on. James Conner for Michael Thomas. Who would you rather have?
Again, so I think this all goes back to Faz's point here about healthy running backs. If you need that and you don't have depth position, you need James Conner. Take James Conner. But if I were to choose one, I would rather have. I'm sorry. Who was the second half of that trade again?
Michael Thomas.
I'm taking
Thomas. Drew Brees is so unreliable.
One trade where I'm not taking the running back. I'm taking my.
I think I'm taking Thomas too. I think you have to.
I don't know. Drew Brees is so unreliable. I'm gonna stick.
I know, but Michael Thomas is Michael Thomas.
When this year? It started this year, dude. All right, I'm sticking
Thomas
James Conner.
Really
he's on
this year, so
he's on a winning team. He's on a winning football team. He will eventually turn it around. James Conner. We've had the same thing happen with guys like Derrick Henry. I think James Conner is going to turn it around. You heard it here first. Quote me on it. Be mad at me when you lose your fantasy leagues because of it.
I will be mad at you.
Conner worries me a little bit because any skilled offensive player always worries me. I'll be honest with you in fantasy.
Because they spread the ball so much that
has a different game plan every week, and that's a credit to him being a good coach. But it's tough for fantasy.
That's fair.
But as a Chase Claypool owner, it's frustrating.
Yes, I feel that. In our league, I have Chase Claiborne, and I don't want to start him anymore. Faz, what was the trade you had?
So I think my friend who I made the Hopkins trade to was listening because he offered me back DeAndre Hopkins for DK Metcalf and Jameson Crowder.
I would do that.
Yeah, I would take that. Take it. Take
I would
it right
take
now.
Hopkins back.
Well,
I mean, we talked about
Faz,
this before.
I would accept that right now. Let me
Faz,
tell you
accept
why.
it right now.
Because you're getting Hopkins back from Metcalf and Crowder, right?
yeah.
Who's a free agent wide receiver in your league right now?
Well, right now, immediately if I did that, my wide receivers would be Chase Claypool, DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, Cole Beasley, and Mike Williams from the Chargers.
Who's free agent wide receivers in your league right now? Read me the
Don't give him any ideas if he's listening.
Jerry Jeudy, McCole Hardman, Darnell Mooney from the Bears, Randall
that's the guy
Cobb.
you're going to want to pick up right now.
Who?
Darnell Mooney. Because at the end of the show, I was going to say it that if anyone's looking for a wide receiver, Darnell Mooney's the guy you should pick up. So if I'm you, I'm doing that trade. I'm getting Hopkins back, and I'm picking up Darnell Mooney. Judy's also another viable option, but Darnell Mooney is seeing more and more snaps every week for the Bears.
So you're saying either way I have options?
Yes. I would accept
So
the trade
if
and
I
pick
did
up
that...
Darnell Mooney. That's what I would do.
God. So if I did that, I would have Wilson, Zeke, DeAndre Swift, DeAndre Hopkins, Chase Claypool, Travis Kelce, one of Mike Williams, AJ Green, Mooney, Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I would do that. I would. That's literally like fixes your mistake of trading Hopkins away.
Because I feel like it's so frustrating because Jameson Crowder is really good.
He's been hurt and it's not looking good in all honesty. And plus, it's the Jets. I know you like the Jets, but think as a fantasy owner here.
As a fantasy owner, I think Jameson Crowder has a lot of value because I think he's the only guy that Darnold really throws to.
He does.
But
don't get me wrong, but it's DeAndre Hopkins we're talking about here.
I mean, I'm just looking at Metcalf's stats. 19, 19, 19, 15, 27, 4, 40. I'm just looking at his points.
It's going to be so funny when Faz trades DK Metcalf away after all of our advice and DK Metcalf pops off for a 55-point game.
That's what I'm saying. And then Hopkins 29, 20, 23, 11, 25, 9, 24. Like,
it's
not like a huge...
He's much more consistent, dude.
He's more consistent, and he's much more consistently going over the 20-point mark. I mean, you might have more boom games.
But my advice is to get Hopkins back and pick up Darnold.
Also, check out what kind of matchups Hopkins has for the rest of the season, if that makes you feel more comfortable with it.
Yeah, we're going to do this really quickly before we move on. For the rest of the season, DK Metcalf is against... All right. Buffalo, the Rams, the Cardinals, the Eagles, the Giants, the Jets, the Washington football team, the Rams, and the Niners. DeAndre Hopkins for the rest of the season. My friend's not listening anymore.
They're on the same. Should be around the same. They're in the same conference.
Bye week, Miami.
Division.
Oh, he just came out bye week. Miami, Buffalo, Seattle, New England, the Giants, the Eagles.
Schedules are in the same conference.
No, I was trying to count the other teams.
Listen, my final say, and this is going to be the end of our trade stats, is do that trade and pick up Darnell Mooney.
I think of it this way. Basically, I'm swapping Metcalf for Hopkins, and I'm somewhat replacing Crowder's value with either what I have or what's out there. All right.
That's me.
Do it.
All right, let me. I'll send the text back after we finish the show.
All right, let's move on to contract clauses. So, I've been wanting to do this segment for a while now, and so basically, what we're gonna talk about some of the weirdest contract clauses in sports history we've ever seen. And I have 4 planned out. I know you guys said you had a couple more. My first one is, let me read my notes here. So I have the pictures rotating up, and I got a really funny one of Manny Ramirez. But the first one is Manny Ramirez. When he was playing ball in Japan, he had a clause in his contract that said he had the access to unlimited sushi as much as he wanted during away games.
Only
Good
during
for
away
him.
games.
Only during away games. The next one was Dez Bryant, and I feel like a lot of people know this one. He had to go to counseling twice a week. He was not allowed to drink alcohol, and he was not allowed to go to strip clubs. Now, I think his little Texas NBA friend would not like this in his clause, James Harden.
No need to flame James Harden for that. It's not in James
Jesus,
Harden's contract.
man, come on. Why? What did James Harden do to you?
He got caught in a strip club. That's what he did.
James Harden, the future 76er, but we'll save that for another show.
I'm actually saving that for next week. NBA talk. The next one
That's
was
a teaser. That's a trailer.
Michael Jordan had a clause in his contract that said he was allowed to play pickup whenever and wherever he wanted, and the Bulls couldn't say anything about it.
Love the game clause.
Love the game clause.
Well, that's because of a former clause in his contract that said that he couldn't do that at all. Because they were so worried about him getting hurt that they took away his ability to play anywhere that wasn't practice.
Yeah.
So he could only play practice in games, because if you were playing outside of it and he got injured, then the entire value of the team would just tank, and they couldn't risk that at all. Sorry, that's my little tidbit fact, because I did some little research.
The last one I had was Big Baby Glenn Davis with the Celtics, that he would actually get a bonus on his salary if he lost some weight. And that's not something that's something we've actually seen before in football too with Eddie Lacy. But
NBA is a surprising sport to see that clause in, though.
Yeah. But hey, I mean, those are the four I had. I don't know if you guys have any more.
Yeah, I'll let Billy go first.
Okay. Well,
No, after you, sir.
Oh, what a gentleman! Wow, treating the guest with respect. Faz is the best.
Sure.
So, I got one right here. This one's from soccer. In 1999, Sunderland signed Stefan Schwarz, the German soccer player. Part of his contract was that he was not allowed to travel to space because one of his advisors had booked a seat on Virgin Galactic space flight, which was supposed to be a space flight, and they were afraid that they might invite him along to go with them, and they didn't want to lose him in space. So they said, you're not allowed to go to space at all for the duration of your contract. He retired 4 years later, probably because he wanted to go to space.
I mean, I don't blame him. I'd want to go to space.
Who wouldn't, dude? Now it's a thing, man. And now Stefan Schwartz can go to space. You're welcome, Stefan. Faz, you want to do one? We'll go 1 for 1.
Yeah, let's do it. So mine are all 3 NBA ones. I'll do this one. I'm gonna save the weirdest one, I think, for last. So this one isn't actually about a player. It's about former Clippers owner Donald Sterling's wife. So she had a contract clause as the wife of the owner of the team. She would have to be known as the Clippers' #1 fan. Number 2, her official title for the team was owner emeritus. She would get 12 tickets to every game, including 2 courtside seats. Now, these are the 2 that get a little bit weird. Well, actually, no. She gets 6 parking spaces, 12 VIP passes. If the Clippers ever won a title when the Sterlings owned the team, she herself would get 3 championship rings for whenever the Clippers won the title. So I just thought that the next 2 are a little bit more interesting, but I just thought that as a non-player contract was a little bit weird and some weird requests.
It is strange. Billy, what do you got?
All right.
Billy?
So, I have the end of the world clause. Rick Mirer spent his first years as an NFL quarterback in 1993, 1994 with the Seahawks. And part of his contract specified that he get paid even if humanity faced the end of the world. So he wanted to make sure that if human annihilation were ever to cancel sports, there was ever some
How
sort
would
of
he get paid if
catastrophe
it was
event,
the end of the world?
then
So
he
you
would
really think
continue
money
to
is
get
going
his
to be the
contract
currency
fulfilled.
when the nuke drops? Like,
Hey man, he that's not. He had foresight. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, he was thinking ahead, and he was like, "I'm gonna get that money. I'm gonna get that contract." And I think that he was smart for it.
hey, fair enough.
All right.
Imagine
This one, Bill Walton. Bill Walton, former NBA legend. When he played for, at the time, was called the San Diego Clippers. When Bill Walton played for the San Diego Clippers, one of his contract clauses was that whenever Bruce Springsteen came and played in town, the team had to make sure that they got him, how many tickets was it? They had to get him 8 tickets. So part of his contract clause was any time in his stay in San Diego, when Springsteen came to town and played in San Diego, the team had to make sure that Bill Walton had 8 tickets to the game. But the interesting part of the clause was that if the team could not get those 8 tickets, the team would pay whatever market price after was for the tickets, and Walton would pay the team back only for the face value. So if a ticket was $50 to a concert, the resale ticket was $100. Walton was only paying $50 for the ticket.
That's funny.
And they're really quick. There is actually, because I just read the rest of this, there is a story where Bill Walton almost threatened a trade when the team couldn't get him 8 tickets to a Springsteen concert. Sure enough, he inevitably left the Clippers. He did leave the Clippers. Don't know if it was because he couldn't get himself into a Springsteen concert, but here we are.
That's so funny.
That's so good. I got one from way back in the day. It was back in the early 1900s for baseball. It's prefaces by saying that baseball players didn't have modern amenities. So at times, players would have to share the same mattress in hotel rooms when they would travel to go to games. So when Ozzie Schreckengost signed with the Philadelphia Athletics, he insisted that Rube Waddle, who was the pitcher at the time, was not allowed to eat animal crackers in bed. Because for a while when they were traveling, he would just wake up with cracker crumbs all over himself, and he was like,
"There's no way that's real."
Listen, man. That's what I'm finding. It's right next to all the Michael Jordan ones and all the other ones. It's right there. It has to be real. So the internet doesn't lie.
That's crazy. That's crazy. This to me is to me at least one of the 3 weirdest ones I've ever heard in my life. So Steve Novak, former sharpshooter for the New York Knicks, had a clause in his contract that did not allow Steve Novak to either have a dog or apparently even be around dogs remotely because he was allergic to dogs and the team was afraid that he would come to a game and have an allergic reaction. The team was so on top of this that if Steve Novak got caught with a dog or secretly having a dog, he had to donate $100,000 to a charity of his choice. The money was going to a good spot. But what other team aside from the New York $100,000?
The dog
had to donate $100,000. The money was going.
Did he just run away?
Now hear me out, because the money was going to a good cause. But can you think of a team other than the New York Knicks that would not allow someone to hang out with the dog? Of course, it had to be the New York Knicks, and that's all I'm gonna say.
I can't believe he signed that. Like $100,000.
He was not allowed to own a dog, and if he got caught with a dog, had to donate $100,000 to a charity of his choice.
So bad. That is so bad.
What other team than the New York Knicks would come up with that? I don't know. That is just the most Knicks contract clause I've ever heard in my life. And those are my 3 bizarre contract clauses.
All right. I'll throw out one more here,
right,
which I don't endorse in any way. We can't support this. But this is the required drunkenness clause. In 1919, Slim Caldwell was a pitcher. He was bouncing from team to teams, and he signed with the Cleveland Indians. Now, when he signed with them, he was known for being a heavy drinker, a bit of a night owl. So when they took him in, the manager at the time, Tris Speaker, insisted on the deal that after every game, he would get drunk, he would rest the next day, train the 3rd, and pitch again on the 4th day.
Oh my!
That's funny.
What?
He wound up having a 5-1 season when he did it.
He
had savage. A 5-1 season doing it.
Good.
Fair enough.
It worked, man.
Listen, a win's a win. I'm the guy that says a win's a win.
It's all that matters. But yeah, the required drunkenness season is
like
probably
4
the best
minutes left. Football. So, can we do Drew Holiday in 4 minutes? Do you think we can keep it to a minute?
Oh, absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
Let's start now. Where do you think Drew Holiday's going to go?
Brooklyn.
Oh, God. Oh, Brooklyn?
I only say that because I think they can offer the best package.
All right, who would the package be?
Probably, definitely Spencer Dinwiddie, and some combination of either Karis LeVert or Jared Allen. So either Dinwiddie and Jared Allen or Dinwiddie and LeVert. I would personally say Dinwiddie and Jared Allen, and I don't really think the Pelicans say no to that. I think that's a fantastic trade for Drew Holiday.
They have Jackson Hayes, though.
I know, but
I mean, I'd go for LeVert first, probably.
I would too, but I'm thinking about who Brooklyn is, who Brooklyn's more likely to trade. One other team, I also just really quick, Denver. I think Denver's been a team that's been linked to him for a long time. probably like Gary Harris. I don't know, like Jeremy Grant, Will Barton, something like that. I only say Denver because Denver's been linked to him forever, but those would be my two.
Billy?
Oh God. Just from looking at it real quick, I was kind of unfamiliar with this. My bad. I was more interested in researching obnoxious trade clauses, but I found the Indiana Pacers and the Golden State Warriors. Golden State has a lot of trade capital to go in on him if they wanted to go in on him and add some depth to the team because clearly they can't perform. They can't perform without their stars being able to play, and having depth with Drew Holiday would be really beneficial. And also, if you consider all of the moves that are potentially happening in Indiana with the talks of Victor Oladipo maybe not being there, adding a piece like Drew Holiday who could definitely help bridge the gap for a little bit. I think those are two teams that I could see him playing for.
Yeah. I'll try to go in 2 minutes here, but Drew Holiday, I think the top 3 teams that are going to shop for him are Nuggets, Nets, and the one I want to see him go to is Miami. I think he would be such a good fit in Miami. Him and Jimmy Butler playing defense together would be nuts because people don't know. Drew Holiday is a really, really good defender. Very good defender. He's been improving his shot every year he's been in the league. And he is 31, 32, but he also took 2 years off to spend with his wife when she was diagnosed with cancer. So he's a young 31, a young 32. Another team that wasn't on anything I saw, but I think would be really cool to see, was if he went back to the Sixers. The Druth.
I love that.
I think that would be cool to see, but I also love to see Miami. If Miami gets Drew Holiday, I'm like, I have to like Miami's gonna be my new second favorite team because they have so many players. I love Jimmy Butler. I love Drew Holiday. I love Bam Adebayo. So like if they get him too, it's like how can you root against Miami at that point?
That would be a fan. I think that I will say this though. I think Miami would be the best fit for him. Out of any teams I said, Billy said, or you said, I think Miami would be the best fit for him.
They'd be such a good defensive team, Miami.
It would be. They'd be fantastic. But yeah.
To close out,
do you think he's gonna get traded at all? I'll say that. Do you think he's gonna get traded at all?
I do think he's gonna. I think there's more likely chance of him getting traded than Victor Oladipo. But one team that's been linked to Victor Oladipo already is Milwaukee Bucks. So I don't like that.
I've seen that. Yeah.
I don't like that fit at all because Milwaukee just needs more shooters. If anything, Oladipo is an okay shooter. I can see Oladipo in Miami too, but I think Drew Holiday in Miami would be awesome. Would be awesome. All right. Final thoughts, anybody? No? You think we're good?
No. Yeah,
I think we're good.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you to my grandparents for the goat shirt, by the way. That was pretty
Thank you.
That was pretty cool.
Mr. Fazzino. Thank you for the support. Thank you for watching, everybody. We'll be back either Wednesday or Thursday next week, 8 to 10. We had to take a week off because of all the technical difficulties, but we are, as you can see, we're good to go now. So I hope everybody has a safe weekend, and we will see you next time here on Go Talk. Oh, make sure you follow the socials too. G.O.A._talk. G.O.A.T.T._talk. Follow the socials for all the updates and stuff like that. All right, I'll let you guys go now. See you guys.